What's up, everybody? Welcome to Podcast Now. I'm Alex, and in this video, I want to talk about the news story that came out about Venom's line usage, that 10% of his lines were used for Spider-Man 2. I want to talk about what that means, cut content, if that does mean that there's something coming, down the line. We're going to talk about all that in this video. I want to shout out, obviously, Evan, and I want to just throw something out there in defense of him. I saw so many people just flat out not credit the guy. Now, obviously, he's a friend of the channel. We talk and all that. But, I mean, this is like basic, especially on Twitter and stuff. You just see so many accounts that put at the, San Francisco Fan Expo, whatever it was called, it was revealed that Venom got 10%. I mean, Evan was the first one to actually say it. So I want to give credit to him and say kind of shame on the Game Journal. That's nothing new, right? These people suck anyway. So there you go. But let's talk about the actual news. I'll tell you this, I am shocked. I am honestly quite shocked that only 10% of the dialogue, like that's nuts to me. And, I'm not saying like you'd be disgusted. Like if you're Tony Todd, you get paid, I guess, the same, right? So the fact that they didn't use 90% of your lines, that's on them, and you got paid, and I'm sure you gave, the best effort you could in those lines. And now here's the deal, right? So why didn't they use them? So also revealed at the same panel, at least I believe, they talked about the scrapped idea that Miles was going to come into contact with the symbiote. And this is something that was spread online quite heavily, I think, the last couple days. And honestly, I think it made a really big impact. I think there was one Twitter account that, maybe the Culture Craves of the world or whatever, discussing film, got like 6.6 million impressions. So, like, a lot of people were very interested. Quick opinion, from me, sure would have been cool. Now, honestly, I've never seen that storyline, as I've talked about. I'm not deep into comics or into the lore in that way. So if they did something there, it would have caught me actually a little bit off guard, and I wouldn't have really known what to expect. I will say, I think they made the right move. I mean, maybe that's my controversial opinion. Would I have liked to have seen it? Well, from the designs that I've seen online, it would have been freaking awesome to visually see. But from the story, I don't know if it would have worked. Miles already solved a lot of other people's problems, and I'm not his story was fine. It wasn't the great, his actual personal story. It was fine. It wasn't the most amazing thing. Obviously, they followed Peter as the main story to kind of get through the game, right? So I don't know. I feel like doing that to Miles would have kind of disrupted that. Although to kind of see that internal battle within Miles, I do think would have been pretty cool. I just don't I'm not saying it would have been the worst thing in the world. I'm saying I don't know if it literally would have fit the story they were trying to tell. And ultimately, I gotta be real, that's probably why they got rid of it, right? They're like, well, does this fit everything else that we're trying to do? And if it doesn't, we got to get rid of it. So you have that, that happened. The other parts, of his voice that just were not used, you do have to question, you have to question a couple of things. Number one, and I guess even the Miles thing comes back up in this discussion as well, the rushed debate, I guess, right? There's the debate online of specifically the Venom arc being rushed, and I can see it. I'll tell you this right now. In terms of the length, I had no problem whatsoever to the length. I like games that are that long. I think games that get your attention, you want to beat them, you want to 100% them, get the platinum, and then you can leave, and you can do all that in 20 to 25 hours. Thank the Lord, because I don't need games that are 60. Now, there are games that are 100 plus hours or 50, 60, 70, but not every game needs to be it. However, I will say this, I'll give you guys this. There's a difference between a game's length being fine or a game's length, I guess, being questioned, and then also if it's rushed, right? Because if it's rushed, that's a little bit of a different kind of discussion. So I've definitely seen those arguments online. I hear it, and I think that people have a lot of really, really good points. They probably did rush through that last arc, specifically, Venom, and so I would not be surprised if plenty of those voice lines were used, with that. And honestly, just the fact that Tony Todd confirms that he did lines for that Miles kind of arc. Now, you don't know how much, right? So they used 10% of his lines. Well, number one, is that fully accurate, right? That could just be a number he thought of in the moment. Maybe it was 18%. Maybe it was 22%. Maybe it was 12%, right? You don't know for sure. But I guess what I'm saying is, well, the Miles thing, right? Was that another 10%? So there's still 80% of his dialogue, that's missing. So I guess the question is, where did it all go? And Yes, I'm sure there's some stuff that was cut. In fact, again, they confirmed some stuff was cut. I'm sure there was more beyond that was cut, but I don't think that would get you up to 100% of his dialogue, right? Or even like rejected ideas. They thought it would be good in the moment, and then they said, well, there's nothing we can do with these voice lines. I do think, and I think they even said it, either one of the two of the actors that were there, where they can maybe use this like later. So maybe for a DLC. And again, we've talked about those options. Now, what's I guess interesting is all the, investigation work that's gone in, and we've talked about, right, that they're recording for something in 2024. So I guess what's interesting is, say, Tony Todd specifically, right? He's doing lines for this project, which is probably some sort of DLC or spin-off thing, right, for Spider-Man. And then you also have all this leftover dialogue. So, like, can you use some of that leftover dialogue in this 2024 thing? Or is that 90% that is literally just kind of scrapped forever, right? It'll be interesting to see how that goes. But I found that stat to be kind of wild. I got to be real. That's a lot. I'm sure a lot of actors have that happen. We don't hear about it too often, right? Like, I mean, the first one I think about is like Nathan Drake, right? So like Nolan North. I am sure they didn't use 100% of the dialogue he recorded, right? But I wonder, like, what's the average for these studios? Do they normally use 60%? Is it 80%? It's, again, like, it's definitely not 100, but like 10 seems extremely and like out there, like I don't know how many other but maybe that's the norm. Maybe everybody only uses 10% of their dialogue. I doubt it, but I guess that's still a possibility. So let me know what you guys think about all this in the comments. As always, make sure you guys are subscribed, bell icon turned on, and I hope to see you all on the next one.